there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, we have got a fun one today because this is easy and you probably have what you need at home already. So we want to jazz up our really kind of generic stamps. Now this kind of stamp here, this is the Delightful Daisy stamp set by Julie Hickey Designs. Anything like this is gold in card making because these kind of stamps can be used in so many different ways. You kind of, when I look for a stamp like this, just kind of clear lines, openness in the petals so that you can, do different things with colors. There's enough space to do techniques inside of them. There's enough that you can kind of stamp it in different ways and it will look different. These are the kind of stamps that I look for. Now in the stamp set, there is one beautiful big leaf, one beautiful big flower. There's actually a teeny tiny flower, and then there is the daisy text definition down in the bottom left hand corner. Now for this, whilst I'm using the stamp set, and this is a new one to me, I think I've already got 2 or 3 videos out using this stamp set, but I have not created a mask yet with this one, and I'm going to need it today. So what I like to do when I'm creating my masks, I like to create reusable ones. So I'm using my Jenna K Masking Magic. This is the most durable and reliable, in my opinion, masking paper that there is out there. Now I have stamped it with some VersaFine Onyx black ink down onto the masking paper. You can see it didn't stamp perfectly, but that's not a worry because we're going to be cutting it out, and all we really need is the outline because it's a mask. Now I'm stamping it down onto my actual project here. This is actually a card front at this point, and I'm going to stamp this daisy 3 times, sort of trying to get different pieces of the daisy. I don't necessarily need it to look different because we're going to do that in a little bit. Something so easy and yet really fun to create a difference with these daisies. Now I'm going to cover this in some clear embossing powder. This means that whatever I do later on, I cannot smudge the ink, which is always a great guarantee for me because there is nothing more frustrating than halfway through the project getting ink smudges. Now I'm also going to clear heat emboss or add clear embossing powder onto the mask as well. This is also going to give it longevity. Now, of course, this is going to melt just like normal, and it melts pretty quickly because it's a papery, plasticky kind of material. Then I'm going to do my project, and this is going to make the lines nice and crisp and dark and even a little bit shiny, depending on which embossing powder you use. I choose to use these super fine embossing powders because this way I get really good fine detail with the powders. Now I am going to fussy cut out this mask, but remember this one is reusable, so I am only going to do this once, and I store this in the back of my stamps and I just reuse them time and time again. So just because this is a new-ish stamp to me, I haven't had to create a mask yet, but now that the time has come, I may as well do it well. So I have cut this out, then I'm saving the release papers from the back, so don't toss those away, and then I'm going to mask up my little flower. Now this is just so that I can stamp the leaves, and anything when you are masking, whatever you stamp first is going to be in front. So what you stamp first is in front, and then from there on you are creating layers behind it. So I want the leaves to come out from behind the flowers, that's why I stamped them first. So I'm just going to pop one kind of strategically down here, and then I want to have one coming out of each flower, but I don't want them to overlap at all. So when I put the mask on the second one, I just lift it straight off the first one, pop it on the second one, find where I want this leaf to go. This one's going to go directly up. And then this one, pull the mask off, put it on the very bottom one, and then this one's going to go kind of in towards the middle a little bit. So it looks like I've got 3 flowers and their leaves ready to go. You could definitely skip the step here where I'm doing the masking and adding the leaves. I just like the leaves because the green is going to provide some really nice contrast with the colors, but as I said, you can definitely skip that step. Now just to keep everything nice and matching, I'm also going to use clear embossing powder on these and then melt them. I find this easiest to do in stages, and it means that I'm not again having the chance to smear the black ink from the flowers because I know it's already heat set, so nothing can go wrong from here. So as I said earlier on, I am going to keep the release papers. I just pop them back on. They stick down nicely. Even though I've already stuck this 3 times all over my page, this still has plenty of stick. I pop the bits back on the back, and then I will pop this in the back of my stamp set. That's just where I find it easiest to stash it away. So I just have a slit down the side. That's how I generally open my stamp sets, and then pop it in and it's ready for next time. So anyway, I am going to have a fun play today with something I don't think I've used on the channel before, and this is going to be a very plain and simple candle. So I guess we are kind of working with the candle wax. Obviously this is literally a birthday candle that I picked from my stash, and this is just a very little one, but I think I had probably left this one several times because it's not colored. And however, if you just have coloured ones, I think you'll find that when I use my coloured ones, they put down very little colour when doing this technique. Now, in my preference, my eyes kind of go towards a clear or a white one, but honestly, if you give the coloured ones a go, I mean, that could even add something fun if it did come out coloured wax, but I'm not sure. So I am going to just go over the petals and do a different pattern, so to speak, on each of the flowers. Now, I guess at this point you can't see anything, and really honestly it is hard for me to see too. If I tilt it, I can see where the wax is, but I'm just doing very, very simple patterns, and you can go as crazy or as simple as you like. I'm going to use some Simon Hurley dye inks. I have the red, which is Traffic Cone, I have the orange, which is Guppy, and I have the bright yellow, which is Shooting Star. Now I'm just choosing to use some water reactive inks to colour these. Essentially, they end up being used a little bit like watercolours. Again, you can use anything because the wax that we have put on there is going to resist the colour. Now, I wouldn't be so sure about alcohol markers, and I would assume that that wouldn't be good for the marker either. But anything that is going to be like, even watercolour pencils work, I have tried that. Any watercolors, any dye or water reactive inks are going to work really nicely. So really have a play and see what you've got. I kind of started off with red in the middle and then orange and then moved out to yellow. You can see that for this pattern I did polka dots with my wax, and they aren't exactly perfect, but I really like that. I really like how random they are, and they end up, even if your ink kind of goes over them, if you give it a few seconds, it will repel the ink away, and you'll be able to, if you have quite a lot or you have a big design, you might want to go over top with a just a dry paper towel, just to remove any of the ink that is sitting on top of the wax resist. But other than that, the ink will kind of move and bead up, and then that way we get a really nice clear pattern. Now, could you do this with an embossing pen? Yes, you could use an embossing pen to create your design, and then you could also add the embossing powder, and then you could heat set it. But for me, this is just so simple. It means I don't have to buy or, find 3 more products to do this with. I can just have my candle, which I was already at. It is my daughter's birthday this week, so I am in full cake making, party organizing mode, and that is what gave me the idea for the candle wax. I am a primary school teacher, and this is a technique that I would use often in my class because it's so easy for kids and it's really achievable for them. They see instant results once they put the colour over top, and so that was a really fun technique that we used to do so much, but I thought I would bring it into my card making and show you how you can use the same flower stamp and yet we can make each one look a little bit different. Now I'm bringing in a couple of green inks here. I think this is Later Gator and Fake Plant, that's the darker one, and I'm just doing some of the quickest shading in history. I really am just adding some of the lighter ink to the rest of the leaf and then the darker ink down the very center just a little bit. As I said, it provides a really nice contrast. Now, for the card base, I only have white card bases. I don't have all the different colors. I cut them myself, and then if I want a colored or to appear a colored card base, then I will just color around the border myself. This also means I don't have to put in a white piece of paper in the middle so that someone can write on it. It just saves and makes it easier for me. It's less things to have in my little craft space. So I thought this would be really nice to use up some of the yellow and the orange. I kind of mixed them to make a little bit darker yellow to go around the border. Again, this is just so that it's all going to be matchy-matchy with the inks and things that I have used on the actual card front. Now I did choose to cut this down just a little bit because I want that border. All of my card fronts start out to be 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. That's just how my brain works. I find it easiest to create the whole piece and then cut down the pieces later on. This means I can be selective about the bits that I want to actually appear on the front of the card, just in case something, there might be something that I want to exclude or that I can easily kind of cut out from the very edges, or sometimes where ink gathers at the edges a little bit more. It just gives me choices. So I love this on the yellow card base. I really think this makes it stand out. It makes the white stand out particularly in the center there, which I love. Now I'm keeping things super simple today because I didn't have a whole lot of time. I have these sentiment stacks these ones are from Simon Says Stamp. There are 4 different packs, and I think there are 4 or 5 sheets in each one. And I'm going to use the thank you one. I'm actually going to take a couple of sentiments from this one. Now these are sentiment strips, so pretty much most of the packs mean that you can just use your trimmer and whip down the middle, and that will be give you the nice strip. Of course, you probably need to cut the left and the right sides, but I do make a little mistake here later on. I just pop all my spears back in the back of the packet, and that way I can check the back of the packet before I come to cut up a new sheet, and we're good to go. Very similar to the paper rose ones that I have used, except for I have been using pretty much all of those up. I have used them solidly for probably 6 months, and I make a lot of cards. So for me, that was extremely good value. I think the paper rose ones are perhaps $4 or $5 maximum each, with 10 to 12 sheets, something like that in each one. So they were really, really good value for me. When I don't feel like just stamping an entire sentiment, getting everything out, then this works well for me. Now this one does say, with thanks, and then I wanted it to say, for all you do. And this is where I quickly panic and realize I forgot to cut off the thanks at the beginning of this one. So whilst it was still wet, I was able to take it off and no damage was done, so I can pop it straight back on and no one will be any the wiser. I hope you have enjoyed my video today where we use candle wax to create different looks with our generic flower stamps. Thank you so much for joining me. Links will be below, as well as ways that you can support my channel. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye.